Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here and being part of this community dialogue series. This is the third annual Race and Community Dialogue series that we're having, which is going to be focusing on trauma-informed services in the Boston Public Schools. I am Carlos Cuevas. I am a professor at the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice at Northeastern University. I am also the co-director for the Center on Crime, Race, and Justice. And I am very excited about this particular forum, in part because I am a trained trauma psychologist. So anytime someone says that we're going to have trauma-informed services anywhere, I have reason to rejoice because I think we should have trauma-informed services everywhere. So I'm looking forward to this. And I'm excited to hear from our panelists and questions from the participants. And with that, I will send it over to our director of our school, Professor Amy Farrell.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our third annual dialogue series that brings together the Center on Crime, Race, and Justice and our Community Advisory Board. I'm really excited as the director of the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice to be welcoming you all to this exciting conversation. Tonight, we're going to be hearing about trauma-informed responses in the Boston Public Schools, an issue that is critical to our understanding issues of equity and justice for students and communities all across the Boston area. So I'm now pleased to introduce Sam Williams, the co-director of the Community Advisory Board, who's worked together with many members of this esteemed panel for numerous years, who will introduce the panel and get us started on tonight's conversation.
Thank you, Amy and Carlos, and welcome. My name is Sam Williams, co-director of the Crime and Race and Justice Community Advisory Board. My colleague, Madre Good, who is my partner in crime, I think he's with us. And just want to acknowledge all of the other board members who have been working with us for many years. What we do as a board is we represent nonprofit and organizations across the greater Boston area. And we use research to examine important issues around race, around education, around public safety, violence, racial profiling, et cetera, as a way to really, one, be informed and look for solutional ways to address some of the deeper issues that we know exist in community and society. So welcome and thank you for being with us. Again, many of you, I think, have been with us in the past. I have the privilege to introduce two of my very close friends and folks that I've worked with for many years. First, I'd like to introduce Olenka Bricino. I'm messing that up, but she is the Dean of Discipline for Boston Public Schools in the Community Leadership Academy. Olenka is an awesome, very critical thinking individual, and so I'm excited to hear her voice and be in her presence tonight. And my other esteemed colleague, Lucinda Mills, who also works for Boston Public Schools, who is a district social worker, but is someone that is very, very passionate and committed to healing and trauma and working with family, working with children, working with staff and adults to really assure that safety and quality of social work practices and clinical practices are being really utilized in the most effective way. So I will turn it over to Olenka. Welcome to the two moderators, and I appreciate everyone for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Sam, and it's Briseño, but it's okay. Everybody says
Sorry.
or I'll take no, but that was close. Briseño, I'll take Briseño. Bricino, it's okay. I'm used to it. I'm used to it now. I'm used to it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and being here with us. I have the pleasure to go ahead and I have the pleasure to have worked individually with a lot of some of the panelists here tonight, and I know the amazing work that they do and how do they support our community. One of our first participants here that I'm introducing, one of our first panelists, is one of my own. I want to call him my own because he does come from BCLA, Boston Community Leadership Academy, and he is an 11th grader, Dory Livy. He is an 11th grader at BCLA. He's involved, he's a governing board member for our school. And he has also been part of different of BSAC. He was part of BSAC a few years ago, and has a lot of knowledge to share and knows how to navigate some of like our system within BPS as a young person, which is amazing and speaks volume to what he brings to the table. The next person that I'm going to go ahead and introduce here, one of our other panelists, is Kedan Harris, and he is the Assistant Director of Opportunity Youth at Boston Public Schools. Have had the pleasure to work with him for many years now, I think over like 7 or 8 years that I've seen his name around, and, you know, bringing a lot of resources to us within the system. And he'll go later deep into more of the detail of what he brings and how he supports everyone within our district. Then I actually did work with her. So we were in the same school. Jenna Parafinisic, which I know I'm killing her last name, but I'm sorry for it. Butchering. Master social worker. She's the director of student support at Boston Public Schools. And our last person that is coming to the table but has an immense amount of knowledge is Latasha Furtado. She is the director of student support at Boston Day and Evening Academy, and has a wealth of information and has some of the most creative ideas within the district that are trending right now. So these are our panelists. Welcome. And now I'll let you guys introduce yourselves to your door.
Hi guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Dorian Levy. You could call me Dory. I am a student in the Boston Public School. I attend Boston Community Leadership Academy as an 11th grader. As Ms. Brasino said, I've been played a lot of roles in leadership for the youth and advocate for the youth in many different organizations. I played a role in Boston Public School as to uplift student government or make student government become more active, have student voice more active in the Boston Public Schools. I also participated in Boston Student Advisory Council. I played BSAC, that's Boston Public School Student Council, played role in our student government at the school level. I was on the Mayor's Youth Council, worked closely with some city councilors, like Mayor Wu and some other. I advocate in different ways and support the youth in different ways, and I'm happy to be here to discuss trauma that affects us.
Kedan.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kedan Harris. I'm Assistant Director for Opportunity Youth, as Alinka mentioned. That's a central office department within BPS. And just really briefly, I'll give an overview of what we do and get into some more details as we go along about that. So Opportunity Youth helps to build capacity in schools, particularly around removing barriers that students face. We do this work in a number of areas. For example, attendance. We collaborate with schools to enhance attendance practices for student success. And some of the ways that this happens is through our annual attendance symposium that brings together stakeholders across the district and external partners to focus attention on attendance. We've provided schools with the tiered attendance system, which gives them an opportunity to assess their attendance practices, look at the best practices that are existent there, but also looking where gaps exist and being able to pinpoint how to address those. Then we support schools with that district-wide platform called Panorama Student Success that helps school communities to plan around attendance for students who are challenged in that area. Then we also provide schools, and we're doing it in our second year now, with attendance mini grants that allows them the opportunity to focus on some creative ideas that they have had, but just needed some extra resources to execute those. And also, we provide technical assistance to schools through the work of the supervisors of attendance who are assigned to schools across the district and are out in the field supporting schools with their attendance initiatives and practices. Another key area of focus is housing stability. Through prevention and intervention actions, our department supports schools in addressing homelessness among students and families. Within our department sits the Homeless Education Resource Network that really coordinates the services and initiatives that we provide to schools across the district. There's technical support to school-based homeless liaisons in the form of professional development and different trainings throughout the year. And we also provide housing stabilization services through partnerships with housing services providers, including Boston Housing Authority and Family Aid Boston, ABCD, to name a few. We also have been involved in providing academic mentoring. Along with the Division of Academics, we have rolled out an academic mentoring program to students in grades 6 through 12. This involves year-round mentoring for at least 1 hour per week that students have access to. They opt in. They're the ones who are completing the application to participate. And during that process of applying, they get to describe their ideal mentor. So they have a voice in what the experience can be like. And it's developed, this program, academic mentoring, is developed on the core practice of relationship building. And just recently, we have had an addition to our department. The BSAC has now found a home in our department. That's the Boston Student Advisory Council. So we've welcomed them into our department as well. So that's a quick overview of the work of Opportunity Youth. You know, as we go on, we can get into more details about creative ways that we've been supporting schools and students and some other initiatives that the department rolls out.
Thank you, Kadan. Jana?
My name is Jenna Parafinzik. I'm the Director of Student Support for the Boston Public Schools. I recently came into this position. I have been a school social worker for 16 years, most recently at the Dearborn STEM Academy and as the Acting Director of the Office of Social Work. I support the Office of Social Work, the Office of Restorative Justice, and our home and hospital instruction. We have a team of over 180 social workers through an investment a couple of years ago. And we are working towards a social worker in every school. And our hope is to continue to grow. And we have added a team of 9 district social workers that support our school-based social workers and are all working really hard in our schools as we recover from really multiple pandemics and really supporting students as they come back from COVID-19 specifically. Our team is tasked specifically in their job description with a 50% direct work and 50% systems work. The systems work is really based in an anti-racist system practice, and we're working towards calibrating our student success teams across every school and really implementing supports where we are supporting holistically the children and families of the Boston Public Schools. And then for direct services, we offer support of individual counseling and really a tiered model of a whole school approach. a tier 2 approach where they might be groups or other support, and then a tier 3 model, which is some more intensive support. Our social workers, we work really hard to have culturally responsive and culturally and linguistically sustaining practices, and we follow that in our hiring. We have at least 70% of our social workers identify as BIPOC, and over 55% of them are multilingual, bi or multilingual. We also are responsible for the district crisis response. Our Office of Social Work responds to all of the high impact district crises that may happen in the community that affect our students in schools. And last year we responded to 66 high impact crises, and that was handled at 43 schools and 184 mental health staff. So we are responsible for responding and for the postvention of recovering and helping schools. So not just going in for a few days, but making sure that they have the continuity of care. Our social workers are trained not only in social work school, but we have continual professional development so that we are ensuring that we're providing in trauma-informed support. Our social workers are trained in psychological first aid and have regular professional development so that we are providing services. We work really hard to provide equitable services across the district so that all students are receiving support that they need. And we are teamed with restorative justice, as I mentioned, and we are committed to and supporting implementing restorative practices and healing circles into our schools, and really partnering and making sure that's part of the culture and climate of schools. So that's a little bit about the Office of Social Work and Student Support. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Natasha?
Thank you, Jenna. Good evening, panelists and staff, family, and friends at home. My name is Latasha Furtado, and I am the Director of Student Support here at Boston Day and Evening Academy. Our school is a Horace Mann and District charter school. We service students between the ages of 16 and 23 years of age. 87% of our students are high needs. 46.6% are students of color, and 46.6% are students that identify as Hispanic or Latinx. As being a director of student support, we work with the holistic student. We have been doing a lot of race and equity work as PDs here as staff to interrupt some of the white supremacy cultures that has been embedded in our practices over years that has been impacting our students, particularly our students of color. We also have created different initiatives to support our students around trauma-informed practices. We have grown out our student support department. We do have lots of social workers this year. Thank you so much, Jenna. We have wonderful social workers here at BDEA. We also added a school psychologist. We added a COAST. We have a clinical coordinator. And through all of those new hires, we created different initiatives. So we have the PATH program that works with our W3 students. We have created initiatives for our students that are unable to access our curriculum fully in the building, which is our YPI program and our blended learning program. We also attack our attendance. So we do have an attendance policy that we are currently looking at to see how it affects our students. Is it student voice and choice that is being incorporated in our attendance policy? We work with the supervisor of attendance, Malakis Gomes, and he meets on a monthly basis to share practices, to think about what is the best way to get our students in the building. As we know, attendance is affecting students nationally, schools nationally. I think about 48% students did not return to the classroom post-pandemic. So we are feeling the wrath of that. We too use our tier 1, tier 3, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 MTSS model, where we do incorporate groups. We have enrichment groups that student support is responsible for. In our tier 2, we have individualized plans where either it's a parent meeting or it is attendance agreements that we are creating with our students. And our tier 3 model is more individualized. Students that may need a higher level of care, where our supervisors and our clinical coordinators support us in doing that. We have about over 300 and something art students here. And our biggest thing that we pride ourselves on is building relationships with our students. Once we build relationships with our students, we can start to build trust with them. Once we build trust with them, we're really able to support our children in activating these trauma-informed practices with our students. They trust us. They know that we are here to support them. And we have a robust student support department that is incorporated of many roles. And so we service our students well here at BDEA, and I look forward to sharing some of the practices that we do here at BDEA as we continue through the panel this evening.
Thank you, Latasha. Thank you so much. This is a room of, if we were in person, you would feel the energy. I feel the energy, and we're not in person, but it's a room full of, it's a lot of knowledge here, and we're hoping that we can go ahead and with the panelists share as much information as we can to everyone and provide resources, which, solution focus. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it out to my co-moderator, Lucinda Mills.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I will go ahead and have us kick the conversation off by asking the first question. I'll just remind the panelists, if you're using any acronyms, just make sure you explain the acronym for our audience so they understand any educational language that is being used. What does a trauma-informed school look like? What does a trauma-informed school look like? I'll kick it to Latasha to start it off, and then anyone after that can jump in.
Thank you, Lucinda. So a trauma-informed school looks like a school that has a safe and welcoming environment. Students should feel safe in their environment. They should know that they have some ownership. They have some autonomy to what is taking place in their school. We activate student choice and voice here. Our students are involved in a lot of the things that we do here involving the school, whether it's hiring, whether it's ideas and initiatives that they think is going to be beneficial to them on a social emotional level, or even just on a level that is going to help us do better with our culturally linguistic practices. We also make sure that we have a cultural safety at our school. Our students know that we are culturally competent. We identify that in everything that we do. We share different practices, different foods, different cultures, different understandings with our students. But more importantly, that a trauma-informed school looks like a safe and welcoming environment to students that enter that space.
Thank you. Jenna?
Thank you. I agree with Latasha. I would say it is about relationship building and ensuring that students know that they have a place and people that they can trust and get what they need. We are usually the hub of what students need. And I think schools that are trauma informed have a system of support that students know how to access, and that is a way that students are able to get their needs met. Students are able to advocate for themselves and have student voice. And I think schools that encourage and incorporate students in making decisions and supporting policy change and implementation means that they are trauma informed.
Thank you, Kidan.
Thanks, Lucinda. For our students, school is probably one of the most consistent spaces that they can occupy. So trauma-informed should be, recognizing that and be, as was mentioned before, a welcoming and nurturing space. Relationships are huge, and it's been mentioned already that there is a role for creating genuine, authentic relationships with our students so that they feel seen and heard, and the environment is responsive to their hopes and dreams, that they can see a pathway for themselves to what it is that they want to achieve. So those are some of the ingredients that would characterize a trauma-informed school.
Dorian.
I believe a trauma-informed school is a school that is aware of situation that happens not only when there is something out in the world. That's when you have like social workers, school psychologists there. I feel like your school psychologist, school social worker should always be present. Always, you should always see them in the hallway. You should always be able to go to their office. Not when something happened to a school or happened at the world, we get an email and said, well, we had additional support to your school. I think a school should always be prepared for any trauma. You don't know what the world is like. And I think that's what really a trauma-informed school should look like. Again, what my fellow panelists said, that all it should be welcoming too, and have relationship. Never. I know that some students in school have connection with a teacher, but it's not always that connection. And I think connection or relationship is that big part of being an informed school.
Thank you all. Just want to remind our audience that we are taking questions in the chat. So if you have a question for any of the panelists, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. We're going to move on to our next question. How are Boston Public Schools students, staff, families informed about trauma-informed services? And we can just go ahead and keep the same order. I will start it off with Latasha.
Thank you, Lucinda. So, of course, as we know, BPS has a behavioral health department that, has school psychologists and social workers that offer individualized counseling. Here at BDEA, we too have social workers. We have our school counselors and psychologists and things like that. Our families and students are notified at orientation from intake. From the very beginning, they are well aware of what services we provide. Like Dorian said, we have an open door policy, so our students come into our offices at any given time. Families are aware of that. Families are given that information. Families are given the name and the number of case managers, counselors, school psychologists, coaches. They have all of that information at intake, and we reiterate it again at orientation because each department comes down and speaks to the students about what we have to offer them here and how they can get connected to services that they may need.
Yeah, I would say this is something that we are constantly getting better at, and I would really put in a plug for our family liaisons. Every school has been able to get a family liaison, which that person works closely with the social workers and the schools, but really is a way to be a bridge to families to make sure they know what's happening at their child's school. And generally, family liaisons are part of the student success team, and really making sure that we're reaching out to families in different languages, and we're reaching them through calls, through talking points, through different platforms, so that we are making sure that we're reaching families in many, many ways. We also work really hard to provide continuity of care, and that looks like over school breaks, we are able to staff with a social worker. We can staff the family helpline. The BPS helpline is available all the time. And then we also have clinicians that are available for summer learning and support for anything that happens in the community over the summer. We employ 10 clinicians that support and do work throughout the summer so that students are not just left to, if they see somebody in the school during the school year, so that they can have somebody to check in with throughout the summer. I think that is something we can always improve on, and that's something that is always a challenge, making sure that families are aware of what we have. And we have a lot of resources and we need to make sure we're getting that out. So I would say that's an area of growth for us and something that we're constantly working on, and making sure that families are aware that there are services and resources and people that do want to support them and help connect them to what they need.
As you can imagine, experiencing homelessness delivers its own brand of traumas. But for our department, through our work with school-based homeless liaisons, many of whom are family liaisons, as Jenna mentioned, there's a reliable channel for sharing initiatives, information, and providing direct services beneficial to students and families who are either variously housed or experiencing homelessness. Some of the initiatives that we have shared through these channels involve addressing the conditions that can lead to homelessness through a partnership with Family Aid Boston, where school staff can make referrals of students and families that they come to know who are experiencing these conditions, whether it's loss of a job or a sudden increase in rent that can threaten housing stability. We've also been able to share referral access to school staff for families who are experiencing homelessness. And through a partnership with Boston Housing Authority, we've been able to connect students and families with housing vouchers to address the homelessness that they're experiencing. It's been a nice partnership with BHA. We've been doing this with them directly since 2020 and have housed over that period over 700 families, BPS families who are experiencing homelessness. We've also reached out and had training sessions with social workers and school nurses to let them know about our department and the services that we offer. And it helps that we actually occupy the same space at Boston Latin Academy. So we're in close proximity to our friends in social work and in the school nurses as well.
I believe I don't want to throw any shades. I wouldn't throw shades. I think that BPS does inform, but they also does not inform family, students, or staff about resource. I believe I know last year they usually do a newsletter every Monday. They would send out a newsletter and they would list resources. And I believe that was very helpful for people to read, because most people does read those newsletters and it does help them. But I don't know about this year. I haven't seen any newsletter because students would receive it as well. I think that if BPS could build trust, Boston Public School could build trust with families, with staff, with students, they would know more about the resources. Most families has belief against public education. They believe that if I tell you this, something might happen to my family. It might drag my family apart. I don't know if I could trust you. I know you want to help me, but I don't know if you want the best for me. You don't know if you want the best for me. I want you to give me the best, but you're gonna follow by your protocols, put this person involved, put this situation involved. And I think that's where trust comes. But otherwise, I think BPS is in the middle of informing their family, but I think they could also do a better job. They do have times to improve, and I think improvement is a big thing. Again, changes are always big, and changes always give you a push ahead or a pushback, but you also learn from those changes as you inform families.
I'll ask the next question. The next question is related to what are some of the challenging situations that you have faced, that you have addressed in your role? What are some of the challenges within the system? And I do want to thank you, Dorian, for saying like you don't want to go ahead. I want you to be as honest and as transparent and speak your truth, because this is why we're here. Because if we don't hear what our families and what our students' needs are, we're never going to go ahead and make progress forward. So speak up, speak your truth. This is why we're here, and this is how we grow together. So I appreciate you being honest with us.
So Dorian, yes, thank you. I do appreciate that. And I echo some of those sentiments. I think that our families have been disconnected from BPS. I don't think that there is a strong connection with BPS as a whole. I think it's an individualized relationship that schools develop with families, and hopefully that would grow outward, right? I think the most challenging situation that I've addressed in my roles, particularly here at BDEA or BPS as a whole, is when you have the death of a student or death of a colleague that happens, and the impact that it has on the community as a whole. Yes, we have social workers, and like Dorian said, the social workers need to be hands on deck, in that not just someone sending in a stress relief team to work with the families or the students or the school as a whole, but having someone that is embedded in the fiber, embedded in the culture of your school. I can say that BDA has that. We have social workers that are embedded in our fiber. They are very well versed about our students. They are building connections with our students. It is very hard when you have students who you have lost to the community, or a colleague who you have lost. How do you rebuild and repair that community? Yes, we have harm circles and we have community circles and things like that, but how do we begin to heal as a community and get our students returning to being motivated? I don't see it. That's been one of the biggest challenges that I have had dealing with my role, and when our students are detained, when they're incarcerated, to a prison or to DYS, how do we service them well? I find that that is a part that we don't do well when we're servicing our students that have external stressors that land in the schools.
Thanks, Latasha. I would echo all of that. Having been a school social worker, I would agree that crisis situations that impact communities, including schools closing. I was a member of a school that closed, and it is a pretty traumatic event to have a school close. And so, having been a part of that, I think that we have to be really mindful about what that means and how we move forward from that. I would say specifically in this role, um, as we return from COVID and try to recover from COVID or live through COVID, whatever we're doing with COVID, I would say our social workers have been reactionary, to Dorian's point about, are they just there? We have a hope and a dream that our social workers can really be looking at systemic racism and how to really interrogate, systems and policies that have been put in place. And so I would say a challenge is being able to manage the direct work and the work that is needed every day in schools and what comes with that. And then really looking at systemic change and how to manage it all. Social worker can't do it all. And so I think, always needing more social workers, but not just leading it all to the social work, really embedding support, healing practices into the culture and climate of a school is really important. I would also say, just for the longevity of social workers so they don't get burnt out, it is heavy work that we ask our district team to do to respond to crises. And actually, social workers in schools are seeing a lot. And so we try to provide support, professional development. We, at a bigger level, in BPS, since Superintendent Skipper has come in, we have moved to a regional model where we're working really hard to support schools and make sure that they know which team of people will be supportive from the district. And then I would also say one of the challenges in a large district is the de-siloing and making sure that everybody, all of these rich resources are working together and we're not duplicating services. And that's a real thing that happens. And so I think we are working really hard at a district level to make sure that we know what other departments are doing and that we're working really hard. To Kidon's point, some of us, work in similar offices. We're trying to communicate, trying to make sure that we're really melding our work together so that we're supporting. But it certainly is a challenge in a large district.
As a central office department, we view our role as being in service to schools. Yes, there's some direct service that, comes through our work, but we collaborate with schools a lot. So to Latasha's point, we're hearing and addressing the attendance challenges. We are hearing from homeless liaisons and family liaisons about the struggles, the real struggles of families, those experiencing homelessness and so many other things. But, I think with each challenge comes, the opportunity. And for us, it's that relentless search for resources that we can provide to schools. And not just resources, but the effective ones. So we busy ourselves looking at that as well. Yes, the challenges exist, but how do we use that as an opportunity to be better, to provide what it is that schools need, what our students and families need in a very effective way to support the path that they're on and to support their success.
I believe some challenges within the system is there's a lot of challenges I would say there's in the system. But I'm gonna speak from my perspective. Really, as a Black and brown student in America, in the United States of America, it kind of caused me or any of my peers to have trauma as a Black or brown student. Most people would stereotype. Stereotype is a big thing, and I know like a lot of us know a lot about stereotype. They will look at you and make you of a stereotype and say, oh, because you're Black or you're brown, you can't achieve this. You can't do this. And that does cause trauma to students. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, it does cause trauma to students. I'm very social in Boston. I talk to a lot of people, adults and students. And most of the issues I see of trauma is going out. Students are scared to go out because they're scared that something's gonna happen to them. They can't live a normal life without being fear. And what they see on news traumatize people. Like, I'm not the type of person that's go out a lot because my mom is scared of me going out or what something could happen to me. And she doesn't have people that she could talk to about that. And that's what like service that you need. Who can I sit down with to talk about the issue? Who can I talk about these fears with? You could see me walking in the street with this black jacket, this black sweater, and wouldn't expect me to be on this event speaking about the truth. You would have been like, he's gang related, he's bad, he's danger because of what he's wearing or how his skin color look. You wouldn't say, what is his real mindset? What is he aiming for? What does he want to do? And to be surprising, I'm a student who wants to study law to change the system. I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity that I can receive or I should receive, not just because of how I look. And I think a lot of that trauma-type students, those students are scared to actually aim for what they want because of what they're stereotyped to be. Like, there's a lot of our students who won't go to work, get a job because they look bad. But do you know that that's the only thing they have for right now? That's what they're aiming for a job to get. Most people don't know that. People goes off by the first look. I might go in my school, I might have a bad day, or something might have happened to me on the street, on the road, I'm going to school, but I put a smile on my face, so no one's asking me how you feeling, how you doing, because they just don't care. We don't have people who are okay. They see you sad automatically, they're gonna go directly to you. I see that most social workers or school psychology or teachers, they wait a few days to see what's going on with you before they say something. And that's too late for you to do anything. I feel like before the first time you see a student upset or sad or anything, you should go directly, "What's up? Are you okay? Is there anything I could do for you?" That's preventing anything else from happening, making the situation bigger. But that doesn't happen. We wait a week, 2 days, a month later before you could do anything. And then you as an individual feel bad for whatever happened. And I feel like that's the truth, and people don't realize that as that is the truth for a lot of, especially for our Black and brown students. People wait to see the consequence of our emotion, and that really affects us.
Thank you, Dora. There is another question. There's a question in the chat room, but then I don't know if I should ask it now or should I go ahead and continue with what we have? But I think that I'm going to ask it now just because it ties to some of what Dorian just brought up. And, when a student is emotionally in crisis internally, and, we see him walk down the hallway. So the question is, what are some specific tools that our students are receiving to distress, calm down, calm their bodies, and feel safe? Is there any mindfulness practice, yoga, meditation, and any other mind of relaxation tool being offered right now?
Okay, so I'll start, and I'm staying in the same order. Here at our school, and Dorian, thank you for that. It is our practice here at BDEA that from the time the student walks in the door, we greet them with a hello. We have a person that sits at the front when our students log in. It is a warm greeting of hello. How you doing today? We usually have some type of snack out for our students, hot chocolate, cookies, whatever, just to let you know that we appreciate you and we're glad that you're here. The question in the chat, we allow our students we have student support offices where community field coordinators operate that space. Our students can come into that space. They can use different tactile things that we have. We have stress balls. We have yoga that our teachers after school. We haven't done it recently, but we have a yoga certified teacher that offers yoga to staff and students. We teach our students breathing. We have them drink water. We take them for walks outside. Some of our students may need to run up and down the stairs. We let them run up and down the stairs, but we do have different activities in each community field office that allows our students to de-stress. So there are tactiles, there are smelling things, there are pulling toys, there are Rubik's Cubes, there's all types of things that students can do to kind of de-escalate and de-stress. Then when that happens, we try to get them to kind of verbalize what has been going on. Sometimes they're able to scribe, or they can verbalize and we can scribe so that we can put a plan in place on how we're going to be able to support our students. So those are some of the tools that we use here at BDA. And of course, we access our social workers to come in and help us when it is a student at a higher risk, or if they just have a relationship with that social worker as opposed to a teacher or advisor. But we do have a couple of tools here that we use to help our students de-escalate.
Yeah, I would say at a district level, we're working really hard to, we have a office of social emotional learning. And so we are working with teachers and staff to embed these practices into the classroom. And so it's really SEL, social emotional learning, is everybody's responsibility. And it's not just a social worker, it's everybody's responsibility. So having the ability to embed that into academics, into the classroom, whether it be really young grades to have a wiggle break, or it is embedded in the practice of how this is happening. I would also say training by social workers for staff so that they understand what they're seeing can be really helpful, so that they, as Dorian said, you might have a teacher that notices but doesn't say anything. And so I think sometimes our teachers want to be there and want to know to say the right thing, but they also need that training. And so we're working really hard to embed that and support that. And then, as Latasha said, we try to meet the student where they're at, really. And offer practices. We have many schools who are embedding restorative justice practices, healing practices where they're able to have a voice. And we have some schools where students are leading circles. And this really is changing the culture and climate of schools and allowing student voice in expressing what their needs are. And then we certainly embed in our practice as social workers, mindfulness, breathing, as Latasha said, and giving other tools so that students are able to figure out what regulates their body. I also just wanted to mention something that Dorian hit was, how we welcome students into our school and what they're coming in with and what they're carrying. One of my favorite things to do when I have been at the Dearborn is to do buses in the morning so that you see how every student is coming in and welcoming students and seeing how they start their day is really something at a basic level that schools can do to be welcoming, safe environments and to allow students to know that they are wanted and welcomed into the school environment.
Lucinda, you wanted to go?
No, I just was wondering if Dorian or Kidan wanted to add to that at all.
I would say that I would say with teenagers, teens now, our emotions really come from anger. We have I'm gonna say we have a serious anger issue for almost to be in, like pre-adults. Like pre-adults, we have a lot of anger issues. And I think that ways that we kind of de-stress is like some of us listen to music. We have like our space. We put in our AirPods or headphones and we listen to our music to calm us down. Some like the voices of other some like they like to move around a lot, like get the pressure out of their body so they don't feel very they don't, how do they put it, they release their emotion a lot, like when they move a lot, so it's not clustered in. Different ways I've seen that teachers has done it is like they sit down and talk to the student. Most students have a connection with the teacher. Like I believe that students personally me, I like when teachers keep it real with you. I like it when they keep it real. Like I want you to tell me what's good, what am I doing wrong, what's up, and what's not. Like I want you to keep it. I don't want you to sugarcoat anything for me. I want you to just give it all to me so I can know how to improve myself. So I really think there's different ways of doing it. Miss Jenna said that like they're trying to train teachers. I think that's a great way. I know like a lot of students don't like when a teacher speak the way that the teacher speaks to them or how they say it. So I think if we have a approach that is inclusive and make sure that it's the right thing you're saying all the time, that that kind of helps, because I know like sometimes when a teacher talks to you, it triggers you way more than what you already are. So yeah.
I'll just add, from the perspective of our department, we're so excited to be able to offer academic mentoring to students in grade 6 through 12. Here you have students opting into a program where they're paired with BPS staff serving as a mentor. And in the orientation with mentors, we have stressed build relationships, allow your mentee to co-create what the experience is like from academic mentoring. So students have a voice in what that experience looks like. And anecdotally, from what we've been hearing, since doing this last year, now into our second year of doing it, it's been really a welcome addition to what students can access in terms of having someone that they can relate to and really share their hopes and dreams and plan for the future. This year, we've had 222 students apply for academic mentoring so far, and we're continuing to match students with mentors so that that work can continue, where students have someone else that they can turn to get that kind of sounding board experience about how they're charting themselves through life. And again, building those solid relationships that can have that impact and provide some addressing some of the needs that students have. So we're excited about the addition of that and really looking forward to more and more students accessing it.
Thank you so much, Kiran and Dorian and all the panelists. Kiran, your response is a good segue into our next question. What are some creative ways that you have worked with students and families? You, your department, or your student view, what are some creative ways you have worked with students and families?
We have some very creative ways in how we work with our families, and we do a lot of fun things here with our families. We do have a parent council here that we revived a few years ago because we have a more of adult population. It's been a little bit more of a struggle to get our parent council off the ground and running. But we do have a couple of members that are notorious for getting those parents together. But during those parent council meetings, we also incorporate parent meetings that we happen to have once a month. In those parent meetings, we do game night with parents. We do raffles with parents. We have what you call symposium that happens in December, and it is our students are doing mini. When I say mini, I mean MINI, mini experiential projects right now, and their show and tell night, so we say, is in December. And so when we do that, we bring our families in, and sometimes there's raffles going on for families. There's a massage chair going on for families and students in another room. There's food demos, look at Dorian's face. There's food demos. We have had coffee social where myself and the director of student support, the director of operations will stand outside of our school and we'll have cups of coffee and danishes. And as parents are coming up to drop their students off, we run and give them a cup of coffee and we give them a Danish and maybe a flyer of what is up and coming, either in the district or on the school level. We do wake up the garden because we have a garden here. And so every beginning of the year, we have a huge barbecue and families come and they help us wake up the garden, or they do harvest later on in the year. We also provide food bags for families for every break. April, February, Christmas, and including Thanksgivings, we make sure that families and students have a food bag so that they do not have to worry about feeding their children for the next week or so while students are out of school. We have student appreciation. We have family appreciation. We do incentives. We send robocalls home to students and families just to say, your student was great today. We have an internal attendance recording system where we send shout outs to our students. So we create all types of crazy things. We have Halloween door decorations and competitions where students can dress up in whatever their favorite costume is. And we do the scariest door decorations and they win prizes. And so we've come with all types of unorthodox ways to be creative with our families and our students here at BDA. And we love it. We enjoy every bit of it. The students and families are really appreciative, and it brings and it gets families into saying, oh, well, an activity is what gets them in, and then that gets a conversation going about where they could be supportive to the student, to the families, to the school, where they could get involved, bring some of their expertise. So we get involved with our students and our families in the creative and craziest ways, but it all works. It all works out.
Sounds amazing, Latasha. We have countless stories about schools and teams working to include families and students in feeling like they're part of the community. And I think some of the things that Latasha mentioned, having family nights, inviting families to feel like they're part of the school. I know some schools have had a family, parent guardian walkthrough for the academics. We often have district teams or other teams come and walk through. And so we have had families do academic walkthroughs so that they know what it's like to be a student and what their students are learning. We have most schools are working really hard to support families with resources, especially at this time when there is such high need, and making sure that families know that they can access that through the school. One of the things that Dearborn did over COVID, we started when students were struggling with coming to school, we started Operation Breakfast, and we went out in teams with safety services and got breakfast and went to students' homes and brought them breakfast and just wanted to tell them that we wanted them to come to school and that we missed them and that we noticed they weren't there. And so that is something we have carried on and doing home visits after school, during school, so that our students that are struggling to come to school, that they know that we notice when they're not there. And that's a really important piece, that we want them in school. And I think really just including students in what they want to have. If they want to have a cultural week, night, spirit week, schools are really embracing that to make sure that students are heard and celebrated in who they are.
Well, what comes to mind, Lucinda, is um, in our work to stabilize families who are experiencing homelessness, being able to partner with another city agency like Boston Housing Authority and bringing in also our housing services provider partner, Family Aid Boston, we've been able to put together a program of connecting VPS families with housing vouchers, but being able also to include doubled up families who typically would not have access to that resource. They, are just as much, experiencing the difficulties of not having a fixed, stable, adequate place to call home. So being able to have that shift in policy where doubled up families could also benefit. I think that was a huge game changer in our work to provide initiatives that can have an impact on our families and get them stable so that those young kiddos can, focus on school and experience stability as they do so. So that's one creative way that we've put a program together that's pretty comprehensive in stabilizing our families on the housing front.
First of all, let me start off. Miss Natasha, I might have to come to Boston Even Day Academy because those sound like very fun activities. But I feel like most of our family and students, they love energy. They love when a school gives off energy. That attracts them more. It gets them more involved. Ways that I know I'm working with student government. This is like my passion of why I want student governments in every school. I have our faculty advisor, those are the leaders of the adults of the student government, to connect with each other, to share ideas amongst each other, to give other school to give them the other ideas to implement in their school. A lot of school is going through stuff. I know like a lot of schools are different, but again, I think that every school does need fun. I feel like we shouldn't have our student come in, get to work, leave, come back the next day. I feel like we should always have fun. Ways that I know, couple weeks back, my school just had their homecoming. It brought like my school is two different campus. We have two different campuses, so it's the 11th and 12th together, and then 7th to 9th on the other campus. So we don't know each other. The upperclassmen and the lowerclassmen doesn't know each other. So thanks to Ms. Brasino, we had a homecoming. We brought the whole school, well, 9th to 12th grade together, and we connect in a way that we never thought we would connect in. We never saw, but we loved each other energy. Last year we had pep rally. Pep rally was a big thing. I think a lot of excitement. It built connection with teachers and students. That was very helpful. Going to middle school, when I was in middle school, the 8th grade class, we kind of created our own little video and sent it out to families and students about, we miss you. This was when COVID just happened. We sent out a video. We said, we miss you. We hope to see you very, very soon. With pictures of us from the school year, like fun, silly pictures, like, and then little quotes at the end of what we expect to see. So I've seen like a lot of different areas and creative ways that we could build. I just think that we should have network where schools connect with each other and be like, hey, my school just did this. I think it would be amazing for you guys to do that. So I don't think that BDA should have all the fun, and then my school is just left over here with no fun. I think we should share the ideas, but yeah.
Thank you so much, Dorian, and all the panelists. Yes. So we have several questions right now coming from the chat. So I'm going to read them one at a time, and then people can, whoever feels comfortable, one or two people can just answer. How should Boston Public School go about gaining the trust of families?
I can start. I would say to gain trust is to be transparent. I think a lot of people love transparency, and once you know that when I say this, I'm gonna do this. I'm not gonna let you down. And I think that's where BPS needs to go in the direction. When I say this, I'm gonna make sure it's done. I believe that BPS has a lot going on, and BPS starts something and doesn't finish it to the end. So I feel like once families start seeing that BPS push out their mission and push out saying that I'm gonna get this done and this will be done by this time, then they would have the trust of families and students.
Anyone else want to chime in? How can we gain the trust of families and students?
Yeah, I echo Dorian. I also think that we have to do better with making sure all resources and communication are in various home languages. I know that we have access to interpreters. I know there is a process to get there, but I know that families don't access or don't trust BPS because there may not be a lot of people that look like them. They may not speak the language that they speak. So they are going to feel like their needs are not going to be met, or they have their children who are Americanized who speaks English to be able to translate for them. So there has to be that level of a bridge where families are feeling like they can access things in their home language. Because if they can't, then they avoid accessing BPS or trying to tap into the resources that we do have.
Thank you. Another question from the chat. What's the process to break down barriers when students live in challenged neighborhoods and need assistance and they may have conflict coming to and from school?
So it's a two-part question, it sounds like. So the first part is, what are some of the barriers when students are coming from, Lucinda, can you repeat that first part of the question, please?
Students live in challenged neighborhoods and need assistance.
So when students are coming from challenged neighborhoods, as Jenna said, we go out and we do home visits. Sometimes families can't access us. So we go out into those neighborhoods and we go out in pairs for safety to see what resources families need. We provide resources to our families. We give them the things, we connect them to services, IHT, ICC, therapeutic mentor, trauma, any trauma counseling and things that happen. I think, like Dorian said, just being transparent, just letting the families know what we can do as a district. And if we can't do them, then let's make sure that we have partnerships or resources to be able to provide to families so that they can access some support to help their families do better. There was a second part to that question, Lucinda.
What happens when they have conflict coming to and from school? How do we help support our students?
So we help our students here at BDEA is that we have what you call a moment of need fund. And so families that require Ubers or our special ed department will provide PTOs for families if they need a PTO to get to doctor's appointments or things like that. Because we are in district Horace Mann, we do have the autonomy to kind of do things a little differently than BPS. So we, have an unorthodox approach. We use Ubers, we use Lyfts. We don't use our own personal cars because of liability, but we do go out and provide our families with the support that they need. If it's a ride, if it's an Uber, if it's whatever, that's what we do. That's what we do here at BDA.
I would just, oh, sorry. I would just add at a district level that we work really hard to work with safety services to ensure that our student support team knows where there is conflict, what's happening, that we have you know, our safety services visible, alert, knowing what's happening, and then working with also our transportation department if just recently, I asked them to change a bus stop for a student who had been exposed to community violence and needed to get on the bus at a different spot. So when those kinds of things happen, we are very cognizant of what that means in a community. Also being creative with schools in figuring out if a student needs to be dismissed 10 minutes early, maybe not forever, but we will be, or come to school at a later time, depending on what the situation is. There are ways that we can help support students and families with ensuring safety and really working with them to make sure that we can get them to school safely. But certainly safety services and the is a support of the Division of Student Support and schools, and each school has an operational leader, which is an operations person who can help support schools with situations like that.
Thank you, Jenna. Another question from the chat. What are the ratios of support staff, social workers, psychologists, and nurses to students?
I can't answer exactly for nurses and school psychologists. I can answer for social workers. It's 1 to 304 right now, and we are in the process of allocating for the upcoming budget. I think for school psychologists, it's maybe 1 to 200. It's pretty low, and I'm not sure. I know there is a school nurse for at least every school. So if the person leaves their information, I certainly can get that information to them. And I know specifically for school psychologists that they have advocated so that it is lower than the national average, as well as social workers. We want to be no more than 1 for 300 students.
Yeah, I echo Jenna. We have a social worker, and we actually have 2 at our school. And so we have one here at this campus, and we have another one at our pilot campus over at the Timothy 2.0. We also have community field coordinators. We have 8 of them. And per community field coordinators, they have a caseload of about 60 per CFC. However, not all of those students are in crisis. They are a load of 60 that they monitor, but in terms of tier 2 or tier 3, there's probably about 20 to 25 students per their caseload.
Sorry. What is the plan and support from the system to go beyond putting out fires and addressing, as Dorian said, emotional cues before several days go by? So what is the plan and support from the system to go beyond putting out fires and addressing, as Dorian said, emotional cues before several days go by?
I would say just checking on our students, checking on as they walk into school, just seeing how they are doing throughout the day. I know like circles are good things are in school. Like when you have circles, you could express how you feel, what you said in the circle, stay in the circle, a little check-in in the beginning of class so you could see how you're doing. Put yourself on a scale from 1 to 5, how you're doing, 1 to 10. Just little things will make a student feel better. You don't have to be big, but the little things is just knowing that you care for me kind of helps.
Yeah, thank you, Dorian. So we do a thing called Fist to Five here, like you said. A fist means you're close. Today's just not a good day. A five means today you're having a great day. We also do the thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down for our students that don't want to be verbal or are not able to express how they're emotionally feeling. But I want to reference to how Jenna had said, I think a big part of it is teaching other staff. It doesn't always fall on social workers or student support to be the one to be the implicit responsibility of dealing with social emotional. I think the more that we train our staff, our teachers to be able to have restorative justice practices and languages within their classrooms will be very helpful, and it will eliminate a teacher checking in on a student for 2 or 3 days. They'll be able to identify when a student is having some type of crisis, especially if they're nonverbal. We do really good around culturally linguistic practices in our curriculum, but I do think that we need to do better with having some SELs and some trauma-informed practices within the classroom embedded in some of our curriculum. So teachers will have a toolbox that they can use when a student is in their classroom identifying as having some type of social emotional breakdown.
Yeah, and I would just say on a systems level, that's our responsibility as the Division for Student Support, the Office of Social Work. It's our responsibility to make sure that schools have the tools and have the training. I would just highlight Lucinda herself has been supporting the Burke, and they have experienced some multiple traumas this year, and Lucinda and the team continues to support them. They are normalizing talking about mental health. She is piloting a curriculum and making sure that students know that it's okay to talk about mental health, and ensuring that we continue to support, again, not just in the moment of a crisis, but making sure that this is something that we are actively addressing, that students know that mental health is part of wellness and an important piece, and so that we're not just reactionary. And I also think it's true that if you have built relationships, then people will feel more apt to accept help when there is a major crisis, or they need support in general. And so we need to do a better job, and we need to make sure that that is equitable and across all schools. And I think that's something we are, as a division, working really hard to work towards.
Thank you all. Another question. Is trauma-informed schools similar to trauma-sensitive schools? Trauma-informed schools similar to trauma-sensitive schools? Are they the same? Are they different?
I would just say trauma-informed schools really have the knowledge to be able to implement relationship and practices that really support students' academic and social emotional wellness. And being sensitive to a topic doesn't necessarily mean you understand it. And so our idea is that we are trying to embed these practices so that all members of staff understand and are really part of supporting the culture and climate of a school. And so being informed is really understanding the need and really buying in. Whereas you can be sensitive to something, but not really understand that you are part of being of the practice. And you can be the nurse, the custodian, the lunch monitor, and all of us in school communities have a responsibility to be trauma informed. And I hope that that's what we are moving to. Well, under my leadership, certainly is what we're hoping for to have in this district.
I am elated to hear about different ways and things that other schools in the district are doing trauma-informed practices. Dorian, I look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully you'll stop by and visit BDEA and create a student faculty here, because we need that. And I just appreciate everyone here on the panel and the guests that are watching at home.
Yeah, this was informative, listening to the different responses. Um, I think, it's been said quite a bit this evening about the impact and the importance of relationships. And those are so powerful in unpacking the potential of our students. Picking up on the cues, that something might not be too right this morning, but that comes from having that relationship and knowing how that particular student moves through school. So relationships are important. And I think the district has recognized, the pandemic has done a job on that, created so many disconnections. So rebuilding those relationships, getting back into that kind of work is an important feature of how we move forward and set our students on a path for success. It's the secret sauce. So, we have an opportunity to double down on that and do well by our students.
I wanted to mention the Office of Social Work started partnering with BSAC, the Boston Student Advisory Council, this summer in really partnering and really listening. And I would just say that that's a commitment on my end, that we continue to listen to our young people and listen to what you need, and that we continue to make sure that we are being honest and transparent. As we often hear that's what is needed. And so I would say that the commitment on our end is we want the best for our students and families, and that we don't get it right all the time, and that I think acknowledging that we have many challenges, but we are really focused on finding solutions. And I certainly know that young people have a voice and have amazing ideas. So I certainly want to include that. I want to thank all of the panelists for the amazing work, and Dorian for being an amazing representative of our school system. We need students like you who are leaders, and it as somebody who works for the system, it makes me really proud to see you being able to do this and to have a voice. So I want to just really publicly thank you for being here and taking your time on a Tuesday night to be here. So thank you for that, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you. I guess I'll be the last person. I'll say thank you for having me. I think we all spoke some true facts today. To keep us BPS, and not just BPS, but other school district who will be watching this, about traumas and how to support our students. I think something I want to leave off is with, to the district, is kind of saying, if you can't do it, with the transparency, if you can be transparent, it's okay to say, I cannot do this. It's okay, I can't provide this for you at this moment, but I will provide it. It's better if you tell them that you can do this, rather than make promises and then later mess up that promises. Just build that kind of trust. I think, like what Miss Jenna said, working with our students is the most. The Boston Student Advisory Council is a big point guard for you to connect with youth. If you could also reach out to individual schools, like I think that if you go to schools individually and meet with students individually, you will learn a lot. You have some student that doesn't speak as much, but will give you the true facts about their society. You have students that observe rather than talk, and they will provide you with a lot of feedback. So yeah, thank you guys for having me, and thank you for all for watching. Well that's for you guys, but yeah.
I want to say thank you all to all the panelists, to Dorian, student rep, to Latasha, to Kedan, to Jenna. Thank you all for such rich conversation this evening on trauma. I get to speak to teachers tomorrow about the importance of mental health lessons and putting them in advisory, and you guys are leaving me here so energized and pumped for tomorrow. Olinka, I don't know if you have closing words before we quickly pass it over to Carlos in our last 2 minutes.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And, I'm on that energy vibe that Dorian is. To me, it's all about energy. And when you walk into a school, you have to feel that energy. So, if we were all in the same room, you could imagine how we would. I just miss us all being in person, like for this type of event. am impressed, and this is a panel that I respect a lot. I mean, all you panelists are doing amazing work. Really respect the work that you guys are doing. You're touching people's life, and that's what we're here for, supporting them. Carlos, you can take it away now. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. So first, let me just again thank the panelists, thank the audience for being here. These discussions are usually not meant to be the conclusion of a conversation, but the start of a conversation. So hopefully people will take that with them and sort of keep moving it along. I also want to sort of make sure I give a special thank you to Lisa Laguerre, who is pretty much the mastermind behind getting these community discussions going. She's the director of community engagement for the center, so these would not be happening without her. And for further information, she's also the person to reach out to get further information or get involved in the future. Again, a big thank you to everyone for being here, and looking forward to the next time.